Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the 30-minute gold chart provided by netdata.com. You can click on the link below. You can see a couple of lines I've drawn here. One is going to be this key support resistance line, which is right there. We're just coming up on it right now. The other one is this downtrend line that's going to cross about 1600, a little bit below. So we're coming up upon a key inflection point here to see if we can put a bottom in the gold market. Now, the silver market is not quite as strong. You can see that it is rallying, but it's just barely got to the 29.25 level and then got hit. You can see that the volume areas that I pointed out seem to be holding. The rule you always have to remember with volume is that if the market holds above these volume points, then that becomes support volume. If the market declines below them, then it becomes resistance volume. So these little blips here, those are actually resistance volume now, but there's big support volume because of all three of these. And today's was actually more distributed, but it was actually a very high volume day. In fact, nearly as high or even higher than this day. It just wasn't all in one big spike. So we're still rallying, and then of course the trend line in silver is a little bit different, but it comes to about there on this chart. We have to pull out to the 1 hour, and you can see there really isn't anything farther back with silver. We have to go all the way back, and it's still not just there. So we probably have to pull all the way back to here to try to get some kind of line, which is going to be about that 33 level. So we're a long ways off from that. You can see the MACD crossing here, and then the massive volume coming in. So that may be the bottom. Now, we had some tremendous action today in other things. The Japanese yen had been getting hammered, and it actually gapped on the open. This is the dollar yen. So as it's going up here, the dollar is strengthening, and you can see there was a gap on the open, and that traded all last night, and then we just had this catastrophic action in the yen. You can see taking it all the way from 94.6 all the way down to 90. Just a massive move in the yen. If we pull out to the chart, you can see how big that move is. So that's a very unusual reversal. The yen has been weakening for a long time, and this may be related to what's going on in Europe. The other currency chart that's really key is the British pound. It has just been taking it on the chin, and it opened up with a very strange gap as well. We can see that on the 5-minute chart. If that gap's still there, you can see that. That was last night's open. It's rallying into that gap, but a very strange gap. So there's very interesting activity going on in roiling the currency markets, and that's mainly the markets that have to do with the dollar index. So it's my contention that the dollar is actually at the center of all of this drama, and they're using this roiling to strengthen the dollar, and they're succeeding so far. Unfortunately, that has resulted in the stock market now starting to sell off. So you can see that we've got a big down day today in stocks, and again, just recently I have put on my position of being short stocks and long silver, specifically the AGQ. And the reason why, I think, is that traditionally I've noticed in the past is that silver and gold go down first before they take the stocks down. So we'll wait and see. Now, the story of the stock market, this is from Reuters. Stocks on Monday suffered their biggest drop since November after a strong showing in Italian elections by groups opposed to the country's economic reforms, triggered worry that Europe's debt problems could once again destabilize the global economy. So that election is tipping towards the people saying they don't want more any more austerity. Of course, you've got the sequester debate going on in the United States, where if you even talk about trimming the fat off of something that's 10 years away, you have insane yelling and screaming. So they just their politicians are unable to cut anything. And then we've got Prime Minister Berlusconi, who may pull this one out. And this is typical of this cast of characters. Here's a little video I picked out of Berlusconi. So there's the class of politicians that you have running for these elections, and the central bankers. I mean, it's hard to figure out which of these guys are more low life. Is it the politicians or the central bankers? So we're seeing around the world the people who are dependent upon these people to support them. I'm afraid they're going to be sorely disappointed. We're coming up upon the sequester, and I think it's probably a non-issue. They'll probably kick the can down the road again. But again, as I pointed out many times, the reliance upon politicians, governments, and central bankers, you're going to be disappointed. So if you are reliant upon a check from the government, try to find a way to get away from that. If you're reliant on a job from the government, get ready to be cut or have your wages drastically reduced. The governments of the Western world, they are bankrupt, and they are going to cut you off because they simply have no choice. So the best advice anyone could take at this point would to be get as far away from dependence on any of these corrupt politicians and central bankers, because it's going to fail. It's inevitable. Now let's look at the news story that broke here about Viamat. This is from Andy Hoffman over at Miles Franklin, and we'll read the actual letter here. You can see that Andy posted an international letter that he got from Viamat, and of course the account numbers are blanked out, but it says February 17th of February 2013. Dear sirs, as you are aware, Viamat International has been providing a service to institutions and private customers for the storage of bullion items at its vaults for a number of years. We would like to thank you for confidence and trust you have placed in this service. We are currently experiencing rapid and substantial changes in the general regulations within this business. These changes mainly relate to the tax structures and taxation systems of various countries. As a consequence of these changes, Viamat International has taken the decision to stop offering this service at its vaults outside of the U.S. to private customers with potential U.S. tax liability. This will come into effect mid-2013. This decision has no impact whatsoever on any other services offered by Viamat International. So that's very clear. It only impacts U.S. customers. So there's another nail in the coffin of capital controls. They began a while ago, and you can read this article by Andy Hoffman. He goes ahead and plugs his storage deal that they're doing in Canada, which looks like a decent idea, but then again, could a regulation take that down? Who knows? So they're beginning to put the nails in the coffin of their capital controls, and my guess is that probably within 10 or 20 years, the U.S. will probably be unrecognizable. We had the term for the Soviet Union was the Iron Curtain. We had in China the Bamboo Curtain, and I'm fairly certain that within the next 10 years or so, you're going to have a curtain. I can't think of the name, but maybe we'll call it Freedom Curtain. But there's going to be a curtain for the United States, and they're going to slam the door and lock everybody in and start the fire. So there's more signs of what's coming, and you have to keep an eye on that and prepare accordingly. So let's go over to some questions, and I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. This is from Jiggy SMB, Death Cross Historically. Brother John F. Quick one here. The last two times the 250-day moving averages crossed, gold and silver had negative or almost no increase for 6 months. Do you feel we will experience that again? Thanks for your time. Well, I don't really put any significance in the death cross. For those of you who aren't aware, the death cross is just when the 200-day moving average crosses the 50-day moving average. For me, moving averages are pretty unreliable. I don't put a lot of stock in them. The only moving average I look at is the moving over average crossover, which I just use as an informational type of thing. For me, again, the most important things in markets are support and resistance levels and trend lines, and so I don't attach a lot to those. For example, when we look at the gold chart here, it seems that the gold price is edging up now towards an attempted breakout to some new level. Could we turn around and go down? Yes, we could, but that's just what I look at, is the shape of the chart, the action of the chart, and the volume on the chart. Next question is mining nationalization question from Nothing Rhymes with Silver. Brother John, what are the implications of mining nationalization of both gold and silver for all of the different forms of investment? Do you think this is a possible scenario, and what kind of price would this be happening at? Is this more likely to occur for either gold or silver? I have a few mining shares. I hear Chris Dwayne and a few others in the community say that nationalization could happen, so I'm slightly concerned. Well, if you listen to the latest interview with Andy Hoffman on Kerry Lutz, he is pounding the table again, and I've pounded the table, that paper investments in the precious metals are just, they're not worth the paper they're written on. Mining shares are doomed to failure as long as there is a suppression of the price of precious metals. You can know that that suppression is happening still as long as you don't have any primary silver mines, or very, very few primary silver mines. So as to nationalization, in a sense, in my mind, they're kind of already nationalized now, because there's just not really any free market in the thing they mine. If prices turn and explode to the upside, could the countries come in and nationalize them? Absolutely. I'm surprised that a lot of the countries that produce silver, Peru, Bolivia, and others, that the lion's share of a lot of the silver haven't nationalized them already, considering that they're letting such a valuable resource leak out of their country at suppressed prices. And next question is Clive Maughan's latest. I don't have time to go into all of it, but you should read the article here. He's got a 7-month silver, which he sees as oversold. The 3-year silver is also getting near downside, and you can see the longer term still projecting a bottom down around 27.5 before it turns up. So not really sure what that implies. Now, this other chart here is very interesting. I'm not sure where he got all this information, but this is a silver public opinion chart, and you can see that the sentiment apparently is nearing the bottom. You can see that it's fairly decent. Indicates a buy there, and there. So those buys fairly well correspond with the buy signal. So we're coming close to a buy signal on that. So Clive can do some flip-flopping, so I don't attach a lot of importance to that, but he does seem to have some pretty good reasons for starting to get bullish here. Next question, China mining asteroids for military advantage. I'm not sure you heard, I'm sorry, this is from Chubby Diaz. Brother John, I'm not sure you heard, but after that meteorite exploded over Russia last week, some samples were found and were said to be going for $2,200 per gram. That is over 42 times the current price of gold. or 2,380 times the price of silver. If these metals are really that rare and valuable, I don't know if it has anything to do with the rarity, rather than just being a collectible souvenir. Would it be naive to think that in the future, maybe even less than 50 years from now, we could be trying to mine other planets or even asteroids themselves? Also, is it possible that gold and silver could become worth a lot less if we found superior metals out there? My opinion, no and no. They're not going to be mining any asteroids, and they're certainly not going to be traveling to any other planets. And are there any superior metals? No, there aren't. There are no substitutes, and they haven't found any in the asteroids that have landed. I know it's kind of a silly question, but it may be realistic in the future. Plus, if these metals are really that rare, discovered to have unique qualities, for example, that make it 50 times lighter or stronger than modern metals, couldn't a country like, say, China or the USA maybe attempt such a thing in the future, especially if they thought it might give them a far superior military advantage? We all know that every year countries like ours spend billions of dollars on research for advanced weaponry and defense, just try to stay a leg up in the competition. Plus, if all else failed, it would be the first time the country spent billions of dollars on nonsense. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Well, I don't think it's going to happen, and I think you probably have better luck pursuing, trying to find out what type of alloy crashed in Roswell in 1948, if that's going to be the thing you're going to pursue. And last, we'll do silver inventory in the world. And this is from Silver 1961. Hi, John. Great site you have. I got to thinking about how much silver is really around the world that people are holding on to. And it seems to me that there is 200 million ounces each year for investment, such as coins and bars. That would mean that going back 5 years, there would be 1 billion ounces sitting in the hands of the people. What about over 40 years? Have you any thoughts about this? Well, you have to remember that the national mint programs really only go back to about mid-1990s. Before you had that, you really didn't have silver. You had Engelhard and Johnson Matthey and bars like that. But you have to remember the bear market that silver was in, it took it all the way down to about $3.50 an ounce in the late 90s. There just really wasn't a lot going on. Now you had the junk silver, but I've done, you can find my old videos, the spreadsheets about how many billions ounces there are of that. But this is one of the factors that comes in when people talk about the overhang on the market. Now, I can't say with any certainty what that overhang is. I know anecdotally, if you listen to someone like Andy Hoffman, he'll tell you that 98% of the interest in silver is buying it from them, and maybe only 1 or 2% is trying to sell it back to them. So I think for the most part, these people who are stacking silver, if it is as high as 200 million ounces, I don't know, probably. I think that's in strong hands for the most part. Where do those hands start to get weak? $50, will that bring out a lot of silver? I don't know. A lot of the silver I have is valued around $50 right now. I wouldn't even think about selling it. $50 to $100, that might bring some out. But I think for the most part, probably the vast majority of silver stackers, if that's who's doing this, I think they're waiting at least for low triple digits, maybe mid triple digits before they start parting with much of it. And then at that point, I think they're probably going to be more concerned about a hyperinflationary blowout or perhaps a deflationary collapse, and they may try to flip some of that to pay off some debts. But for the most part, as I've said, I intend to hang on to my silver until the next currency comes around and there's some stability. But we'll have to wait and see. So very, very exciting action in the markets right now. We're waiting to see if gold can put this bottom in, if it can rally up above these lines. Now, there could be a very serious downdraft in the stock market tomorrow. You don't get too many of these types of violent sell-offs like that And sometimes these types of violent sell-offs actually have a lot of follow-through. You can see this one here. This one especially here is 1, 2, 3 days in a row, a little bit of rallies. And you can see that you got to drop from about 13,293 all the way down to 12,500. So 1,000-point sell-off in the Dow, even a 2,000-point sell-off in the Dow would not be very large, an outlier historically when you're looking at it percentage-wise. And with the uncertainty coming up with the sequester and the uncertainty with the Italian election and the violence roiling the currency markets, it's quite possible the Dow could continue to sell off from here. And we'll talk to you next time.